Okay, I just want to show you quickly. You can find the question papers under question papers in the Google Classroom. I've made it one document with a lot of question papers on them. It's about 160 pages. And the reason I've put it like this is so that if you download it, you can basically get just one document with all the different question papers that you can work through on the various styles and everything that we have. So you can see there's different questions. This is regarding vectors that they will ask you. At the bottom, you will see the last two numbers is the number of the year where those questions are coming from. So I think if it starts from 2009, then it should go up to 2019 or 2020. I don't know if I put so much on top of them as well. But regarding vectors, there's various questions that you can go through, especially on the topics that we are covering now. And then if you have a question regarding one of those problems, because the answers are not on there, like let's say you attempted, or maybe you attempted and you just want me to verify if your answers are correct, then you can also do that. Then I can check for you and maybe explain where you did something wrong. But most of them fairly looks very easy. If you have been following the lessons that we have done. But if it's the first time that you're looking at it, it will become a little bit difficult, so forth. So there's various different questions on many different things. So we will still come back to revision. And when we do revision, we will be going through, especially this question paper or different question papers that we might find questions that we can look at as well. So that's just the first thing I wanted to explain. Today, before we get started, I just want to look at this specific question. It's still on vectors. This is coming from 2017, and just to see if we're able to do this type of question as well, or based on this question, if I'll just read the questions and then see if any of you say that there's a problem or you don't understand what to do here, then we can quickly go through it, or else we can just skip to the new lesson that we have for today. So the question starts off with a grid, y-axis, x-axis, and we have 2 points there, A and B, and they give you the coordinates of point A and the coordinates of point B are marked on the grid above. And then it says here, write BA as a column vector. Okay, so again, this is just one of those questions that very first questions that we went through, where we explained that you have to know how to represent a vector, right? Which one is your tail, which one is your head, and then that's how we have to do. And also in this form over here, it is asking us to write the whole thing as a column vector. So what we can do as examiners is increase the marks to 3 and then say, show all your working, okay? And that's, I think that will be something very common you can expect this time around in the examinations. Okay, so over here, just by, you can either show your hands or say yes or type yes in the chat. Do we know what to do here with the first question? You can just click on the hand or in the chat type yes or say yes, so that we can at least hear your voices or that you are following with us. We are looking at question A. Do you know how to write it as a column vector? That is the question, given something like this. just make it a bit small. How many of you will be able to score that mark? Giovanni, is that a yes? Or Jay, is that a yes? Guys, can you hear me? Okay. So there's a, okay. I don't know, Napume, is it a yes or is it just for the, you can hear me, or is it a yes for the question? Okay, there was one, Giovanni says I should explain and how we can get to this point over here. Now you will notice that when I do my explanations, I normally explain a lot more than it's supposed to actually be, right? There's two ways we can solve the first question. Okay, there's two ways we can solve the first question. The first one would be that you go and draw in the vector yourself. All right. So if I was any of you, I would have just gone and drawn in the vector. So it says from B to A. So I will start at B and then I just draw a line connecting A, excuse me, and I make an error. Okay, so that would have been the first step you could have done. And then from here on, you can now just count the blocks. Okay, so from B to A, we are going to the right. This is now for the X, 1 block, 2 blocks. So for the X, that will be 2 blocks to the right. To the right of the X means it's increasing, it's a positive number. And we are going down with the Y, 1, 2, 3 blocks. So since it's 3 blocks down, and if the Y is going down, it will become a negative number. This is one way we could have done it. And I always tell my students and everybody in the class is that you have a question paper, all right? And for that question paper, you will never get it back again. So when we give you a grid or something on the grid or a diagram, make use of it. Do your calculations, your drawings on that diagram, because you will never get that paper back. And if you maybe want remarking or we are looking for marks, then there's nothing you can get. So use the diagrams, fill in information that you are given at the bottom onto the diagram so that you can see it. If you see it, you can believe it. That is normally what I always say. So this is the first part that we could have done to get those two coordinates. The second part that we could have done is basically find the changes in X and the changes in Y. So to get the two on top, we could have used the coordinates over here. That is now what I'm using. So let's say A is our first coordinate. So the first one is X and the second one is Y. And this will be X2 and the other one will be Y2, okay? So I will take my first X. Let me just show the whole process. I can do it over here. So it will always be your X1 minus your X2. That is to find the difference, and that will give us the X over here. Okay. And at the bottom, you'll have your Y1 minus your Y2. All right. It doesn't matter which one is your Y or your X, you will still get the same answer. If this is your first one, you will still get the same answer at the bottom. If this is your second one, you will still get your answer the same at the back. Okay. So in that case, so I'm just using A as my first one, so it doesn't matter which one we use. All right. So after you get this idea, then you just replace the variables with numbers. And once you replace the variables with numbers, we should just perform the normal subtraction and then we get our answer. So let me just replace the variables with numbers now. So for my X1, I have a -1. And then the sign that we use is a minus, okay? And then for X2, I have a -3, Okay, so remember I always said if you get minus minus, put the other one in brackets so that we can at least see the differences there. Then for y1, I have a 1 minus and minus, that's a positive 1 minus for y2, I have a 4. Okay, and now I'm just going to fill in the answers. It should be straightforward from here. So minus 1, and this minus bracket minus becomes a plus. So minus 1 plus 3 becomes a minus 2, and 1 minus 4 becomes a, sorry, not a minus 2, a plus 2. And 1 minus 4 becomes a minus 3. And you can see that this is the same answer we got here at the bottom. So those are the two ways we can do it. Now, remember I said that in the exams, we can change this to 2 marks or we can change it to 3 marks, and we will basically want to see the working. So we will give you marks for the working over here, and we'll give you marks for a correct X, a correct Y value. So that's how we can give 3 marks, or we can sometimes just give you 1 mark for the correct column vector, and that is what we have here. So this is from the exam question paper, what we expect you to be able to do regarding a vector. And if I just go to the next question quickly. So the next question is, C is a point such that BC equals to 4 minus 1. Write down the coordinates of BC, okay? So where we have B, which is the tail, and C, which is the head. So all we need to do basically is start at the B, which is the tail, and we go with the X 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we go down by 1 for the Y, and that is where that vector is indicating for us. And basically, I have to now indicate that point on the diagram. That will be my C, and like normal, I will write down the coordinates for that C. So that coordinates is having a X value of 1 and a Y value of 3. So that is the coordinates that we want, and that is what we expect you to write down over here. So X will be 1, Y is 3. That's basically it regarding vectors, and we expect you to do those vector performances or vector questions that you will find on the exams that I have posted on the Google Classroom. All right. So today we're going to look at matrices, and it's a little bit long explanations that we will have to go through because this is a new topic for you guys, grade 11s as well. Vectors also a new topic, but this one hasn't been in the previous examinations. So it's mostly what is required at university. When you continue with your studies, you will be asked questions on matrices, and we will also expect you to know it now. I also hope that you guys have read the news. It is, as I've told you before, that the requirements to go into university has been increased to 27 points. And if you guys were paying attention in class, we also explained to you 27 points. How do you get 27? We do not get a 27 by a D, because a D symbol is basically equals to 5 points. And if you multiply that by 6, if you get all of those D's, if I'm correct, D is 5, then we have 6. No, D is 4. Sorry. Let me just get the calculations right. We have a C, we have a B, we have an A. So A is 7, B is 6, C is 5, and D is 4. So if you get D's, and please note that A starts 80% above. This is from 70 to about 80. This is 60 to about 70, and this is 50% to about 60, and I think after that, it doesn't matter what you get. All right. So if you want to go into university, you take whatever symbols you have. If you are aiming for 50% only, 4 times 6, that will give you 24. All right. That already means you do not qualify for any university. However, if you aim for the 60, which I've always told everybody, management and everybody, I told them, please tell our learners passing mark is 60, it's not D40. All right. And if you get your C symbols in all the subjects, that's 5 times 6, that will give you your 30, which means you already qualify straight into the exam. So this is one thing that I've always explained in the class all the time. And I would like you to really focus on achieving that C. If you get higher for some other subjects, that can compensate for other subjects where you will get a D, right? So that's how you can play around with the marks. But for all subjects, 60 is the way to go. That will get you through into all other places where you want to go with your life, right? So I just wanted to explain that again. It's been announced publicly, the ministers and everything has said it. There's a circular out, so you have to start early as well. And also, as I've told you before, that you guys, there is no free pass. The exam is set and the minister has confirmed whether there's COVID or no COVID, you will write your exams under a controlled environment. Whether we write on the rugby fields or in a hall, you will write your exams. So that has been also confirmed and set again. And this is also a requirement from university that they need students under controlled environments, because this year's first years performed very poorly, and they noticed that that's because of things that happened last year. So I just try to motivate you as well, and to say that those who are attending class, don't feel sad or bad. Just know that it's for your future that you are fighting for. And as long as there are those that would like to fight for their future, I will assist where we can. So let's get started with this lesson. We will not finish this lesson today alone. There was a request that we should also have class tomorrow. So I think we will have class tomorrow again. And where there's questions, we can answer those questions and so forth and continue. Maybe by tomorrow, I will post a homework for today, and then hopefully tomorrow we can go through some of the homeworks and vector questions that were previously raised. So let's just go through some of the objectives we would like you to achieve by the end of this topic. So we are asking you to represent information in the form of a matrix of any order. So I will underline some keywords here so that we will see order and interpret the data in a given matrix. So we also have to basically interpret. That's another way of understanding as well. And then we have to calculate the product. This just means our multiplication. Okay, of a scalar quantity and a matrix. So a scalar quantity, we already explained the scalar quantities in vectors. So you will have an idea of what we are talking about. This is now the number outside of the bracket. Okay, and a matrix. So this time we are not doing a scalar quantity and a vector. It will be a matrix. Then we are looking at solve problems involving the calculations of the sum. So sum is addition, and the difference is subtraction. So over here we are going to add, all right? Here we are going to subtract, okay? This is coming from your syllabus, so I'm just interpreting also from the syllabus. Of any matrix not exceeding a 3 by 3, okay? So this 3 by 3 is what we call related to our order. Sometimes our orders, they change the dimensions and so forth, okay? So you will have to spend a bit of time on looking at what is the order and understand that. And then we're looking at product of a matrix not exceeding 2 by 2. So this product, as you can see, that it's again multiplying. So we are multiplying matrices, not the scalar and a matrix, two matrices that are multiplying each other. And then the use of a zero and identity matrix. These are also very key terms that we will be looking at. Calculate the determinant and inverse of a non-singular 2 by 2 matrix. That is also very important. You will see that this determinant and inverse, let's first look at the determinant. This is very similar to the magnitude of a vector. We did the magnitude where we get a single answer or something like that. And the inverse, we will also look at later on, getting answers on inverses, which is a little bit complicated later on, but I believe you guys will be able to do it. Okay. Then solve simultaneous linear equation by matrix method. Oof, that is the one I've been telling you about later on. But we have done something similar. If you remember your vector, we said that if you have a vector, a 5i plus 6j, all right? Remember we spoke something about this, and I said that, okay, this can be also, instead of 5i, we can say this is your 5x, all right? The x is changed by 5 plus your 6y, okay? So your y is changed by 6. So we will again use what we have learned in vectors, the basis of the vectors, to apply to our matrices and such. So to make it an equation, all we do is say equals to 4, or we say yes equals to 6 or something like that. That is basically how it becomes an equation. But the left-hand side, you have some knowledge of that beforehand already, okay? So I hope that explains your objectives, what we are trying to do, and the lesson will be orientated around achieving these things. When you get to university and other places where you continue with mathematics, they will just add more complicated things on this. Instead of stopping at 3 by 3s, they go to 4 by 4s and all the other crazy matrix dimensions and orders that you will find. All right. Is that clear? May I proceed? Is there any question here on any of the terms that we do not understand that you would like me to explain again, or may I just proceed? Sorry about that. Is there any questions, or is it fine? Can I just proceed? Okay, says proceed. All right, let's proceed. So what are matrices? Matrices, this is the plural form of a matrix. Okay, so in general, we call it matrix, or some of you might call it matrix. That is basically, I found it very funny because this topic is only for matrix. If you are in your last year of school, that's where you will learn about matrices. So for those who ask what does it has to do with my life, yeah, it's for matrix. This is how they will tell you if you are able to go through mathematics as a matrix. If you don't understand what a matrix is, or I'm talking about now grade 11 and 12, your final years, if you don't know what that, where that word came from, could have originated from matrices and matrix and so forth. Okay, matrix and so forth. I'm reading English and can be determined. So singular, we call it a matrix. And when there's many of them, we call it matrices. That's the first part we need to know. So a matrix is a rectangular array of numbers enclosed by a pair of brackets. Okay. So I will highlight, let me just use a line. I will underline keywords. We say a rectangular array of numbers enclosed by a pair of brackets, right? And these two words is what we will be focusing on. It might be new, might not be new. So rectangular, we know what a rectangle is. Array is maybe a new word. We will talk about an array. And numbers, we know what is numbers. Enclosed by a pair of brackets. We have already seen something like that in vectors as well, all right? So this over here is a matrix called A. It's a, you can see the bracket is a form of a rectangle. We use these square brackets to represent our matrices, and that is how we will do it as well. So this is another matrix called matrix B. And the array of numbers means it's just like random numbers that we have, but it's not having a dividing sign. Remember, we spoke about vectors as well. And in vectors, we said we have our X, we have our Y. So here we are basically telling you that a vector is also a matrix, okay? So the vectors that we did is also a matrix, except that the order or the dimension of the vector is just it's how many rows. It's having X and Y, so that will be 1, 2 rows, okay? So this is a row, and this is also a row, and then it has only 1 column. So that is the one here, this line that is going down, that is a column. So it has 2 rows and 1 column, okay? So if we look at this and we represent it in an order, we'll say 2 rows, all right, and by 1 column. So this is what a vector is normally about. So we have either this is called a column vector, and I also explained to you that we can have a row vector. A row vector will therefore be something that is like this. If I call E, and then I say we have the square brackets, and we have our X, and then we have our Y, and we close the square bracket. So this is only having 1 row. Okay, 1 row, because it's just 1 row here, and in the row we have 1 column, 2 columns. So the X is at row 1, column 1, the Y is at row 1, column 2, and this is basically how we will also learn to interpret the vector. So this is what we call a row vector, because there's only 1 row, and we will define it by that, by many columns that it has, right? Hope that part is clear for now, but we will still spend a lot of time understanding those things over here, right? So if we look at all of the above are examples of matrices, and D is a column vector as well. I've explained that. Why is it a column vector? And remember, we work with vectors. We talked about a row and a column, or row by column. This is row times column. We call it a row by column. If you ever hear, I refer to the multiplication of a row. This X here, we call the X a by. Okay, we call the X a by, and that is basically what we are referring to when we talk about row by column and so forth, right? So if we look at the first vector A, we can see that it has 1 row over here. That's the first row where the numbers are. This will be the second row, okay? That's the second row where other numbers are located. So we will say here, column A has 2 rows, okay? Then we will look at the vector matrix A has 2 rows, and here now we will look at the columns. So we can see that there's 1 column where these 2 numbers are in line, they are in that column, okay? And then we see there's another column. So we can now also say that this has 2 columns, okay? So in fact, if we look at now this, so we can say this is a 2 by 2 matrix. A is a 2 by 2 matrix, okay? So this is now what we talk about the order of the matrix. It's a 2 by 2. It's ordered in a 2 rows by 2 columns. If you look at B, there's 1 row over here. There's another row over here. And there's another row over here where the numbers are located, okay? And so we can say how many rows does it have? 1, 2, 3. So it has 3 rows, okay? Now we go to the columns. We look at the columns. There's the first column. All the numbers are in that column. There's another column, okay? And there's another column over there again. So now we count the columns. We have 3 columns. So we can now again find the order of matrix B using the rows and columns. So we can say it is a 3 by 3 matrix. B is a 3 by 3 matrix. So if we ask you the order or the dimension of the matrix, then it's a 3 by 3. So the word here, array, just means arrangement of numbers, right? How the numbers are arranged. Okay, it's arranged like this. There's a 3, 1. It doesn't matter what the numbers are. We just arrange them in that way. Okay, in a rectangular form. Okay, even if it looks like a square over here, we call it a rectangular form. That's all of them squares and everything. We just call it rectangular form. Okay, so this is what we are talking about, the order of the matrix or the dimension of the matrix. So I have given you A and B, so I would and D. So is there somebody who can unmute their mics and tell us what is the order or dimension of C, please? Order or dimension of C. You can just unmute your mic and give us the answer.
3 by 3. 3 by 2, I mean, sorry.
Okay, please explain to us. How did you get your answer? Okay, let me just write down your answer. You say it's a 3 by 2. Okay, how did you get your answer? So that we just.
So there are 3 rows.
There are 3 rows. Okay, is that true? Let me see. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's the 3 over there.
And there are 2 columns.
And there are 2 columns. 1, 2. Okay, that's the 2 over there. And that is also correct. Okay, so thank you, Rishiwa. That is 100% correct. So we have our 3 rows and we also have our 2 columns, and that is what we are talking about. So 3 by 2 is the correct answer. So this one I already did. It's 2 rows by 1 column. So it's a 2 by 1. Okay. So remember, a vector is also a matrix. Okay. It's just a smaller matrix. So that's why we start with vectors, and then we start with vectors, and then from vectors we go into matrices, so you have a background understanding of what is going on. Okay, so let's look at identifying a matrix using the order or the size or the dimension, as I've talked about. So in question papers, depending on who sets up the question papers, we will again change the words as we normally do. So the trick is, this is now where teachers are important. So if you just study on your own from YouTube talks about dimension, but in the textbook, it talks about order. In the exam, it will talk about size. So this is how we sometimes confuse the learners, all right? And these 3 words are basically just the same thing. So if we ask you to give the dimension, or dimensions, or the size, or the order of a matrix, we can sum it up as follows, right? So this